Welcome back to the show, Julianne.
Thank you.
It's been a while. It's been like 2 years since you were last on, something
Yeah,
like
I
that.
love that. Yeah, a lot has changed for me.
Like what?
Well, the last time we talked, I had just bought a home. No longer live in that home. I'm separated from my husband. We are going through a divorce right now. I've talked about this publicly, so I'll just say it here. Um, there was infidelity. I cheated on my husband. We separated. That relationship blew up, and then over the last year, I've been living at my mom's, and my sister's also recently divorced, and so she's also living here as well. So that's been kind of fun. And my mom, obviously, this is her home with her boyfriend Steve, who's now like a stepdad to me. It's really cool, like living in this home where my mom was a drug addict. Well, she still is, but when I was little, my life was pretty crazy because my parents were addicts. And so now living in a home with like two sober, stable parents, my sister and I are getting to do like this reliving like inner child thing again in a house with like two parents. And it's just like really fun. So that's been really great. There's been like a lot of heartbreak and a lot of decisions I wish I would have made differently. But ultimately, I think I'm happier today and on a more authentic path to what I want my life to be. So,
No, that's awesome. I'm
yeah.
happy for you that you're like starting over,
Yeah,
starting fresh. Is your clean date still the same?
it is
What is that again?
September 1st, 2016. So that's coming up on
So
8 years.
8 years. That's awesome. Congrats.
Thank you.
I have a new clean date.
Oh, that's right. I did see that.
Yep, April 1st. I still have 6 years away from opiates, and I still have 4.5 years away from alcohol. So that'll be by the time this comes out, I'll be at 4.5 years, and by the time this comes out, you'll be at 8 years.
Yeah.
So
Go
that's
us.
exciting. Yep, look at that. My slip was with weed and benzos.
Okay.
So I'm still working on trying to quit smoking cigarettes. It's one of those things that, I have nicotine gum that I chew all day long and I still smoke cigarettes. I'm not ready for the patch yet. My wife just quit vaping using her patch,
Hmm.
and that worked for her. After smoking for like 20 some years, she was able to quit with a patch.
Wow.
I'm not ready for the patch because you can't smoke on a patch.
Right.
I still enjoy smoking too much to like make that commitment.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like recovery, you have to want it, and I don't want it enough yet. I need to quit. I know that I need to, but need and wants are different when it comes to recovery and quitting things.
Yes, absolutely.
So, and what was your drug? It was opiates, right? Fentanyl.
Opiates, yep, fentanyl, any opiate really, and, when I couldn't get the opiates, definitely any benzo. I never turned a benzo away.
Yeah, no.
I was a downer girl. I didn't want the uppers.
Yeah, me too. I was a downer girl too. No, I completely agree with the downers. I'm not sure why that is. Like I did coke here and there. I liked coke if I couldn't get, other things, I would do coke. Just because I was addicted to snorting, the sensation
Okay.
of snorting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I would do coke if I didn't have pills. But yeah, I was, and my relapse was with benzos after my dad passed. I didn't really know how to process,
Mm,
and I have a psychiatrist, so I was like, "Give me Ativan," and
mm,
then eventually I'm like, "Give me Valium," and then eventually I realized you could snort Valium and get high,
mhm.
so I started snorting Valium and. Got called out on it by my wife. She's like, you have much less pills than you're supposed to have, like you're not clean anymore. And I was like, shit, I got to start over.
Mm,
So I took a month off of work and started getting back into meetings. I do NA every day at noon. I do Gamblers Anonymous on the weekends because I had to quit that. Pennsylvania has legalized gambling for sports and it cost me a lot of money. So I got a little over a month, abstinent from that. I do them on the weekends. I picked a meeting in Las Vegas. because I figured if anyone can recover from gambling, it's people in Las Vegas.
For sure. Yeah.
So, how long were you? When did you start becoming an addict? Were you a teenager?
No, my story is so different than like all
Mine.
all the people that like partied in high school. Like I didn't do anything like that. Like because my parents were heroin addicts. My dad overdosed and died when I was like 11 or 12 years old. Like I just stayed away from drugs. I never smoked weed. I didn't smoke weed until I got off hard drugs. I love saying that. It's so funny. Like I didn't smoke weed until I got sober, but yeah, I really didn't touch anything. I didn't really get drunk until I was 21 years old. When I turned 21, like I went hard in the bars for sure. But once I was done with alcohol, once I met my husband, like that was over. Like that was not hard for me to give up. Looking back, if I look back at my behavior, I would say I was an addict like before I was even born. Because like as soon as I'm like I have a credit card, I'm buying like every one shirt in like 35 different colors because I like it. Like all of my shopping behavior, my behavior with like men, my behavior with food, like my behavior with anything really. It's like it's all or nothing. There's no balance. There's always extremes. I'm sure you can really relate to that. But so I would say I was an addict always. It's just the drugs didn't enter the picture until I was 27, which is like
Yeah.
really late. I hurt my back. I went to the doctor. They didn't know what was wrong with me. MS, fibro, who knows, whatever. I ended up being prescribed medication, getting like what do you call it? Injections in my back for pain blocks, things like that. And like it just very quickly became like me playing the game of like, oh, this tramadol is not working. And then they would call in the value, not the value, the Vicodin. Then I'd have a full tramadol and a full Vicodin. And then I would take both of them, and I would take the Vicodin and call back and say, oh, the Vicodin's making my stomach hurt. Can you call in a Tylenol 3? And at that time, they would still do shit like that. And so I was playing that game like however and whenever I could. And this is like not cool to admit, but I'm gonna admit it because it's just the truth. Is like I have dogs, and I did a lot of hospice fostering, and people medication is sometimes the same for animals. And I will not lie to you, I dipped into my dog's pain meds because they took tramadol too. And like I would get it filled when they didn't need it so that I could have it. Like you know what I mean? Like you take the access when you can. Like I hate admitting that. It's so gross, but it's real and it just is what it is.
And you're absolutely right. I almost we have two cats, and we had to take them to the vet one day for checkups. And these are not cats that you can just pick up and put into a crate like a normal cats. These are very skittish cats, and we can only pick them up certain times. And we had to try to catch them to put them into their thing. So they they prescribed our cats gabapentin
Oh yeah.
to calm them down. And I have gabapentin for myself, my restless legs.
Yep.
And I said to my wife jokingly, I'm like, well, what if we just take one of mine and just like cut it into pieces instead of paying the $17 for it? And we ended up paying the $17 and getting a script of gabapentin for them because I have 600 milligram gabapentin and they're only supposed to take 100 milligrams.
I was gonna say the dosage is so funny. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, and tramadol, usually their dosage is higher than ours. It's like a funny thing, like veterinary medicine. But yeah, a lot of their meds are the same. Like people say like doggy Xanax. I'm like, it's just Valium. It's not
Yeah.
doggy shit. It's the same as ours. We can get it filled at the pharmacy. So I
Yeah.
definitely took advantage of that. I will not lie.
Yeah. So you're in your mid 20s. Do you have MS?
No, I have fibromyalgia.
Okay. My wife has MS. That's why I was asking.
They thought so. They thought it might be a brain tumor. They really didn't know. I was just having like it started in my back, but then I was just having pain all over them. They really couldn't like figure out why. And so for years it was just like, oh, we're going to give you pain blocks. We'll burn off. We'll do like a rhizotomy where they burn off the nerves in the low back because it mainly was my low back, but I still did get nerve pain everywhere else. And so finally a couple years ago I was diagnosed with fibro after all of that.
And you're done with the fentanyl patches?
Absolutely, yes. Have not touched an opiate or a benzo since I got sober, save one time I was in the hospital. I had a couple bleeds over the last couple years. My hemoglobin dropped super duper low. I had to have transfusions and things like that. And I took a Klonopin. And I will admit I was anxious, but I also felt in the moment that maybe it was a little bit drug seeking. But I did take it in a hospital setting. I hated it. I hated it, hated it, hated it. I hated it how it made me feel. And I hate it that I hated it. It pissed me off that I had that opportunity to take it and to enjoy it and I didn't. And I was like, what the fuck? And so anyway, I went home and I was so distraught about it. I was like, I felt like such a fraud. I was like, do I have to go on TikTok and tell everybody? Like, I was so upset. I was like, we just bought a house. I don't want to tell my husband and have him like, and his dad just died. I don't want him worrying about me. Like, I know I'm not going to relapse. This thing happened and I was struggling with it. But I told my mom and then moved on from it. And, you know, I didn't have any other benzos or fentanyl or opiates since.
Yeah, I know in a hospital setting, it's funny because that kind of happened to me where I had my gallbladder removed a couple of years ago. And, you know, I shut down because of all the opiates over the years. My gallbladder shut down from constantly throwing up bile when I was withdrawing. It caused my gallbladder to shut down. When they gave me an endoscopy, it was 99% ineffective. So I was in horrible pain. And when I went to the hospital to have it taken out, I said to them, I don't want any kind of opiates. Like, I'll go into withdrawals right away, you know, and I'm afraid of withdrawals. So don't give me anything. And I woke up high as hell. And I said to the nurse, like, I'm really high right now. And she said, it's probably the anesthesia. I said, no, I know what this is. I'm really high right now. And the doctor came in and I said, you guys give me anything? He's like, yeah, we had to give you a shot of Dilaudid and a shot of fentanyl. It's like, dude, like I went into withdrawals for 18 hours. As soon as I walked out of the hospital, because it was an outpatient surgery, as soon as I walked out of the hospital, I started throwing up. Like in the parking lot of the hospital, I started throwing up. And I had to hold a pillow against my stomach when I was throwing up for the next 18 hours so that my 6 incisions didn't break open. You know what I mean? So it was one of those things where it was a lesson that, okay, you can't take opiates like a regular person anymore. So you definitely can't relapse because you can't handle the medicine and you can't handle, because I never did fentanyl. I got out of the game before fentanyl was being pressed in blues.
Good.
So I never experienced fentanyl until that day. And I'm almost glad I got to experience it looking back, because it gave me that lesson of like, okay, you can't do this. And I feel like for you, it's the same thing. Like you took a Klonopin. There's so many different names for.
I know. Yeah, that's interchangeable.
Yeah, it's almost like saying Valium and diazepam. They're the same
Totally.
thing. So it's almost a lesson for you. Like, okay, I can't handle benzos anymore. I got to legally and morally take a benzo in a hospital setting, and it didn't work out for me. And that's a lesson that I learned.
A little freebie, if you will.
Yeah, it's a freebie. It's almost like when you have using dreams.
Yeah.
Those are free. Do you still get those?
I haven't had any where I've used in a while, but this is what's the hardest part for me. It's not the action of taking the drug that causes the problem. It's all of the like turmoil that comes with it, the obsessive thoughts that come with it, the lies, the broken trust, all of that. So in my dreams, my using dreams, I'm not using dreams. I'm not exactly using, but my behavior is around using, and I'm lying in my dreams and I'm nervous that somebody's going to find me out. I'm not exactly using, but it's around using. So I probably am somewhere in the dream, but it's just more about all of the lies and the deceit, because that was the worst part of all of it for me, because I'm just like such a like open person. I am who I am. I don't really like hide it too much. But like, yeah, I don't know.
I noticed that we have the semicolon almost in the same spot. I have it on my wrist right here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
There it is. When did you get that?
I got this So he's still my husband. So Jack, he was getting a portrait of one of our dogs, and was with this artist that he had an appointment with him for like 18 months. His waiting list is so long, and I just went up to kind of like hang out and chill. And I didn't have any at the time. And the tattoo artist was like, "You have nothing." And I said, "Yeah, I was thinking about getting a semicolon on like my 1 year sober." And because I wanted to wait till it was a year just in case. And he was like, "Well, how many years sober do you have?" And I was like, 3. And he was like, "Okay, we're gonna do it today." And so he did that day. So that was kind of cool. I got to have my
Yeah.
little semicolon done by an artist that has an 18-month waiting list and didn't have to pay out the ass for it. So that was kind of nice.
Yeah. What does it mean to you?
To me, it basically just means that like my life didn't have to stop at addiction. I didn't have to. So, okay, so it was really hard for me to accept that I was an addict. To say the words, "I am a drug addict," was really hard because growing up, and that's how I self identify. I know that like the language is changing, but for me, that's just what I use for me because it's still important for me to say those words because of my story, because of my mom, because of my dad. I was so not going to do what they did. I was going to do the opposite. Very little. I would watch my mom in situations, have conversations, make decisions, do things. And I would be like 6 years old and be like, "That shit ain't kosher." Like, I know that that's not what's supposed to be happening right now. And it would make me nervous. And I just knew that I was going to do things different. And for the most part, I did. I was a straight A student. I had a 4.0 when I graduated from high school. I didn't get into any trouble. Like, my friends were good kids. I became a correctional officer right out of high school. I went to college part-time. I did that. I got my degree after 10 years. But in that time, oh my God, I lost my train of thought.
You were talking about the semicolon and what it meant to you, and you got your job, and then you part-time went to school and you got your degree, but in that time you
Thank you.
you found yourself becoming a drug addict.
Yes, and so it's important for me to say I'm a drug addict and know that my life didn't have to stop there because it was so hard for me to admit that I was like my parents, to say, "Yes, I'm just like my mom. Yes, I'm a drug addict just like my mom." Like, that was the hardest part of recovery for me. Um, until I could humble myself to admit that and to say, "All right, I feel a lot of shame in this, but I'm gonna just try to trust this process." And this is like all in rehab. Like, I was really kind of like forced into rehab. It was like your job or rehab. So I needed money to buy drugs. So I went to rehab because I needed my job, right? And I was gonna come out and just do the same shit. But while I was in there, it all kind of changed. And I had different thoughts, and I felt like I just wanted to try to trust the process to do the right things for the people around me. Um, so for me, I had to identify as an addict, but drop the shame around it and be kind to myself and say, "Okay, like, yes, this is my past. Yes, these are the things that I did, but that doesn't mean that I can't take what I did and have a better future and make better decisions and make something awesome out of my mess." And so that's what it means for me, is like that my life didn't stop at addiction. My life didn't stop at "I'm a drug addict." I could say those words and still drop the shame and still come on here and say, like, "Yeah, I stole my dog's pain pills." Like, that's the desperation I was in. I hate that story about myself. I fucking hate it. Like, my dogs are my life. I don't have children. Like, this was the most important thing to my husband and I, as animal rescue. And so I hate that story about myself, but like being able to admit it, to say I'm a drug addict. Yes, I did these things. I don't do them anymore. And I take my story and I take my pain and I take the damage that I've done and I try to turn it into something better and try to help other people like me navigate it and get out of it before they do all the damage that I did. And like, that's a really long-winded answer, but that's what it means to me.
No, that's awesome. I completely relate, you know what I mean? Because I got mine July of 2018, and I was probably 3 months sober, something like that. I met this girl. Her name is Muckrock, Jules Muck, and she's done a bunch of the paintings that are behind me and in my apartment. She's a painter. She's a tattoo artist. She's a graffiti artist. and she's like world renowned.
Multi-talented.
And she's done, murals everywhere she goes. She does, these awesome fucking things, and it's her full-time job to do graffiti. And we would sit in her front yard in Venice, California, and she would give out tattoos. She would hold AA meetings in her front yard, and we would sit around and she would give tattoos while the meeting was going on.
Oh, that's cool.
So like I got to California with one, and I came back with 17. in 4 months. In 4 months, I came back with 17. And
I've got a couple now too.
yeah, and the semicolon for me was more about I had lost my fiance to suicide.
Oh.
And I know that the semicolons for people that to say my story didn't stop and it continued. Mm-hmm. And to me that rings true, because my story didn't stop at addiction.
Yeah.
But also it's to remember her, you know what I mean? And I got the Philly skyline right next to it, underneath of it, because she loved Philadelphia. So I got the skyline right next to it, just as like a reminder.
That's so special.
Yeah, so every time I look at it, I think of Colleen. It triggers that feeling. I was just talking about her last night with somebody else. We both were with and engaged to a bipolar schizophrenic people, and both of them took their own lives. And we just like instantly like got goosebumps, because it's so rare to find somebody who, well, I guess suicide isn't as rare as it used to be, unfortunately, but it's rare to have the same diagnosis and lose somebody around the same time period. So we instantly connected over that. Now, what are you up to now? You just started a nonprofit. Is that what you did?
Well, it's not a nonprofit, but I was going to say, you're talking about these experiences where you connect with people on such a level that it's just almost like unbelievable. It's like the universe intervening for you at that moment. And that's not something I truly actually even believe in, but I can't deny that it happens all the time in my life, which brings me to this. It's just that I went to a Taylor Swift concert when she was in Philadelphia for the Eras tour. I couldn't get in. I had tickets outside. I didn't have tickets, so I just hung outside with the rest of the crowd, and it was just so beautiful. Like everybody was dressed up in their outfits, and everybody, like, I never felt more physically, bodily safe, like ever. Like it just felt like all love, all safety. Everybody was just happy for the people who get in. Everybody was happy for the people in their outfits. Everybody was just like, yes, like this is the best day ever. Happy Taylor Day. It was great. And I thought, like, how cool would that be to have in a recovery community, right? The vibe of the Taylor Swift concert where everybody's safe, everybody's accepted. It doesn't matter like what your path is. It doesn't matter if you utilize harm reduction. It doesn't matter. And so under my business, Blank Space Recovery, where I do recovery mentoring, I do one-on-one peer support. I started a group called Swift Steps, and it is a recovery community. And it started out as a recovery community for sober Swifties. But then a bunch of people started reaching out saying, hey, I love this concept, but like, I'm not sober from drugs and alcohol. My deal is codependency. Can I still come to these meetings? And at first I was like, I don't know. I don't really want to drop the sober Swifties. But then I was like, no, like, of course, it's all love. Come to the meeting. You know what I mean? Like everybody's welcome. And so it's really kind of, it's open in that way, but it is membership based. On Tuesdays, we have a free meeting, and it's called Speak Now, because Taylor had an album, Speak Now. And on Tuesdays, people in our community and in other recovery communities, they come and they, for 20 to 25 minutes, they tell their story, however they want to tell it, whatever it is that they want to share. And they weave in their love for Taylor, or how Taylor has played a role in their recovery, or how Swift Steps has played a role in their recovery. And then we send them a handmade Swift Steps friendship bracelet in the mail as a thank you. So that's Tuesdays, and that's free to everybody. And then we have 4 other meetings during the week. We have a women's meeting. We have a check-in meeting. We have a gratitude meeting. And then on Saturday mornings, this is my favorite meeting. It's a song lyric prompt breakdown, where every week we take a song, and either me or if somebody says, hey, I want to break this song down, I feel a special connection to it, they'll take it. It's almost like journaling a little bit, like working through what the song means to you. And I'll open up the meeting and I'll break down what the song means to me. And like today we did a song called I'm Gonna Get You Back, and it's about, I don't know if I'm going to get you back like in bed with me or if I'm going to get you back by smashing your car, but bitch, I'm going to get you back. And that song so resonates for me because I've been super unhealthy and toxic in relationships. And so I got to really work through that today with the group. And over the last, since January, it's been so cathartic for me working through all of these feelings of like through my separation and the affair. And like, it's just been so helpful for me to confront all of these things that I've never had the balls to confront, and I'm able to do it with these people who are not judging, and they also kind of get me, and then they give me their reflections, and it's really cool because you never know what someone's song reflection is going to be. You might think it might be about, it's a love song, so you might think it's about that, but like for me, that love song is about me and opiates being completely toxic with one another, but I can't give it up, and you know, all of that stuff. And then somebody else might hear that song and it might be about their struggle with their father never accepting them or something like that. So it's really cool, like we get to look at these songs not just through like the lens of how Taylor Swift wrote them, but through like the lens of our addiction recovery, mental health, that kind of stuff. So that's my favorite meeting.
These in-person meetings?
They're all virtual, so that's really cool.
That's my next. I was going to see if you did them on Zoom because that's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, we do it all on Zoom. So, you know, it's not in person. Like we can meet a lot more people that way. And then the other thing is that like a lot of people reach out and they're like, hey, do I have to share? Do I have to have my camera on? And I'm like, absolutely not. Come and listen. I don't care. Turn your camera off. You don't have to talk. Listen to it like a podcast, meal prep. Just come and get the message. Just hear that you're not alone. Just hear that you're not the only one who's having these sick thoughts or these fucked up thoughts or whatever. And just hear that like you are not your thoughts, and it's okay to have feelings and just sit with them and not judge them. And, you know, all the things that come up in those kinds of conversation. It's been really wonderful. But it's all based in Facebook. It's in a Facebook group. It's a private Facebook group. Basically, you go there, you give me your email address, I add you to our email list, and then I add you to the group. And then there is the community, and you have the community forum that's free for everybody. And then if you sign up for the, it's called the Out of the Woods membership, it's $40 a month. And that includes all the meetings. It includes our Swifty business directory where I have all businesses with all Swifties. So you can support other Swifties in recovery and just, you know, keep that recovery capital going. We have, I want to say it's 275 meetings a year for on holidays. I do like 3 meetings a day. On the 4th of July, every single meeting was packed. And I'm telling you, I thought like this is going to be a day where it's slow. The meeting started out in the morning, and all of the 14 people were in that meeting remained in the rest of the meetings throughout the day. So it's like very, it's filling a need. I really feel like that's filling a need. And I'm really feeling I'm like finding my people and like talking about like Taylor has a song called The Invisible String where everything, it's like the universe is just connecting us all. Like this one girl, I really vibe with like you're talking about. We have such similar traumas. As soon as we connected, it was like an instant like soulmate situation like that you feel with somebody, right? Her husband's job just recently relocated her over here into Philadelphia from Colorado. And we just recently met. So it's just kind of weird, like all these different things that are happening in my life. It just feels like the universe is kind of like putting me in the direction I'm supposed to be in. And like I said, I don't even really believe in it, but I'm just like trusting the process and having a great time. And it's just been a pleasure to work with all of these people and just to really explore my own recovery through this lens with other Swifties. It's just been so great.
Yeah, that's awesome because not everybody can find recovery in AA or NA or any anonymous meetings. They're not comfortable. And I know I was uncomfortable at first with doing them. But now I found my home group to where I'm comfortable speaking every day. Because I'm a sharer. I share at every meeting I go to, you know, whether it's GA for gamblers or whether it's NA, I share at every meeting for 5 minutes. And that's my therapy. That's my form of journaling, is just bearing my soul once a day for 5 minutes. I'm better with words than I am with writing. So I'd rather talk it out than write it out. Um, and like my wife, she's been in recovery 4.5 years too, and she couldn't get into AA. Like it's just not her bag.
Yeah.
She discovered what recovery dharma is.
That was it for me. Like it was refuge recovery, but I know that that's an offshoot of that. So
It
yeah.
is. Yep. And she does that every morning at 9 a.m. She does it a couple of nights a week as well, but she does every morning at 9 a.m. She just got done a noon meeting. I was in my GA meeting. She was in her recovery dharma meeting.
Love that.
And we both have our different avenues that we take for our recovery, and we don't clash them. We don't compare one to the other. We're happy for each other's recovery journey. We're happy that we're both staying, clean and sober, and that's all that matters to us. She was on my show earlier and talking about recovery dharma and what it means to her and what it is as an overview, just like you just did with Swift Steps, and talked about where you can find it in case like you're not an AA person but you want to find like-minded people. And you're gonna send me the link for this for the Facebook.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I'll
So
put it into the description. So if you're watching this and you want to check it out more, you can go in the description and you can go in there and try to join the group.
absolutely.
I think that's really cool because it's such a huge fan base.
It is, right? And when I went to go Google, like there's like Swifty craft groups, broke Swifties, like over 50-year-old Swifties, every kind of group except for sober Swifties. And I was like, this is a missed opportunity. And I'm so happy I thought of this. And I'm like, this is the only good idea I've ever had in my life. I'm running with this. Great. And I'm telling you, like the puns just started coming. It's been so fun. Like just the homework is Taylor Swift. What could be better? It's so enjoyable for me. I love it. And I get to help other people stay sober. It's just so fun. And just to add to that, one more thing that we actually I started recently is a course called Blank Spaces and Brave Faces. And it's a journal course. It's 13 weeks. Taylor's favorite number is 13. And we go through each week. I send you a journal prompt and you take a song and you like reflect back on whatever it is. And then you answer it and you send it to me and I send you personalized feedback. But every fourth Sunday of the month, we have a Swiftie share circle and we get together with the people who are in the course and we talk about our answers and we talk about like different themes that came up throughout it. And so it's just another really cool therapeutic way to try to journal because I find journaling to be insufferable. I hate it, but it is so helpful because like I said, these Saturday morning like song journal prompt meetings, they have been so cathartic for me, but to actually sit down and want to do a journal prompt, I hate it. So holding myself accountable with these people, with my Swiftie group, and they get to tell me all their stuff. It's just so wonderful. And we really just get to explore being humans together and trying to do it better together. So,
How long ago did you start it?
I started Blank Space Recovery in November, and then Swift Steps was at the end of January.
Oh, so you got like 9 months of it going then.
Yeah. But I mean, I just launched the membership 2 months ago. So that's new. But I've just really kind of been trying to cultivate this space where I want everybody to feel safe to come and talk about like, yeah, I had to utilize harm reduction today because I was so anxious or I'm currently not sober, but my camera's off. And if I'm slurring, I'm going to try to be aware of it. But if I'm loaded, I want to come to a meeting and talk about it. And to me, I feel like if you can't come to a meeting and talk about it, where can you really go? And so I just wanted to have a space where people could come and do that.
Yeah, it literally says in AA, if you're not sober, please do not speak.
Yeah, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I really need to talk.
Something along those lines. I'm trying to remember how they say it. Please.
I think they say we suggest that you listen and not talk. Yes.
Something like that.
For me, I specifically say like in my readout, like our comments do focus on substance use disorder, but please feel free to stay and share if your addiction or recovery relates to something other than that. However, we do support and champion harm reduction. And like, you don't ever have to apologize for how you're justifying in this world. Like if it happens to be in a meeting, just turn your camera off And that's about it. Like, just try not to be triggering to people, and we love you anyway, we want you here. So that's kind of been what I've been trying to just create, and it seems to be really, really working. I'm very, very, very happy with all the love and the support that I see in the group, and I just hope that it continues.
Yeah, I mean, it can only grow from here, and it's a great way for you to find recovery too.
Yeah, it has been, because I think the last time we talked, I was doing my podcast, and I had a TikTok, and I was doing recovery content on that, but I wasn't doing a whole lot of recovery work on myself. But in doing it this way, I'm actually doing the work with them, which is really cool. And then you talked about you and your wife living in the same house and your recovery is not clashing. I live in a home with an AA and an NA, like big book thumpers. And so my mom is very, like, when I started this, she was like, hey, you're going to be a recovery mentor and utilize medical marijuana, or you're going to get, push back on this. And like, she was just so feared up about like what the recovery community she knows might come at me with. And I was like, I get it, but you don't know the younger recovery community that is out there everywhere that is just so sick of that whole mentality. So she was my first speaker for a First Speak Now meeting, which was really cool because she still wasn't fully on board. But the more she's come to meetings and the more she's heard, she's like, okay, I see it. I get it now. Like, it's really cool. Sometimes like it's more about who the message is coming from than the message. And sometimes it's the message and not the messenger. But, maybe Taylor Swift is somebody that might get through to young girls. Maybe that might be an incentive for them want to work on their recovery, and
Or to even discover recovery, because when you're in your early 20s, like a lot of Swifties are, in their early 20s and mid 20s, you're almost afraid of AA or NA because you feel like that's for older people and that's not for me. And they can find the commonality between Taylor Swift, where they are like, well, I love breaking down her music, and breaking down music is awesome, especially when the music is recovery based. I always ruin songs for my brother. My brother is not in recovery at all, and I'll be like, oh, that song Under the Bridge is about shooting heroin under the bridge. He's like, what the fuck? Now
I heard that in a movie yesterday.
What?
That's a good song. That song Under the Bridge.
Oh, it was in a movie?
Yeah, it was on a show that I was watching yesterday. I can't remember, or a movie, but it was in it. It was like the real slow version that they used for Batman.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I ruined that song for my brother because he's not in recovery at all. He doesn't need recovery. He's a very normie person.
My sister too. So
my
it's
sister
me,
is too.
My brother, my mom, and my stepdad, and then my sister who lives downstairs. So she lives with 3 drug addicts. She does her best.
I think it's cool that your mom's coming around because, big book thumpers or basic text thumpers, whatever you want to call it, AA and NA. Because basic text, for those who don't know, is the NA version of the big book in AA.
Right.
They're very similar, and not in a bad way. It's just like I did AA the first time. I did NA. I went to NA meeting 6 years ago. But I was more of an AA guy. I went to a lot more AA meetings than NA meetings. I did the steps through AA. My sponsor was AA. So when I had my relapse and I decided to come back around, I was going to AA originally, but like I couldn't talk about benzos. I couldn't talk about weed. You know what I mean? Like, my wife still uses medical marijuana because of her MS. She literally needs it. And she's not like disrespectful. It's not like she's like lighting up joints in front of me or anything like that. Like, she just uses a dry herb vape. So there's barely any smell, and it doesn't like tempt me whatsoever. But I can't talk about that in AA without getting looks over to me like, what are you talking about? Like, it literally in their literature says confine your discussions about alcohol and only. And in NA, in their literature says alcohol is a drug, period. So I can identify in NA as an alcoholic and an addict and talk about both without people like judging me.
Yeah.
So I found a Zoom meeting based out of Providence, Rhode Island. My sponsor that I asked to be my sponsor, he's got 30 years as of last week.
Amazing.
So I got the workbook, and it's a lot more of an it's a lot more work to do the steps in NA than it is to do the steps in AA.
Yeah.
You have a workbook that you had to answer all these questions out of, and it's just a lot more of a deep dive. And I feel like that's what I need this time is a more of a structured, because in AA you can be through your first 3 steps in an hour.
Yeah, my mom says that they go through really quick, and in NA they take a long time to stretch. It takes like years sometimes for people.
It does. It really does, because it's so much work that you have
It
to do.
is.
But the work is worth it, and that's why I wanted to try it a different way, since it didn't work out with AA, so you might as well try it with NA and see what happens.
I really love, sorry, I wanted to make sure that I said that, like, when you came out and posted your new clean date, like, I talked about, like, do I have to go on TikTok and let everybody know and all that kind of stuff? Like, when people do that, I find that to be the most inspiring, powerful thing, because it is such a humbling and brave thing to do. So when you did that, I saw that and I was like, yes, I was like so proud of you. And I know I commented and said, like, I'm proud of you, like, good job, dude, or whatever. But like, I really was like so excited that you were like, because that takes work to get to that space to say, okay, I'm going to put this out there. And I was so proud that you made it to that space and you weren't still in the previous space, still struggling with it.
Yeah, it took it. I felt like for accountability reasons, I needed to do it and put myself on blast.
Yeah.
I am very entrenched in recovery with doing this podcast, where it's my hobby. It's not like I'm making money on this to be able, like, living off of this. This is a hobby that I do, and it helps me stay clean. It helps me stay sober, and my addiction took over, and just it ran rampant. And it was a pretty quick progression. After my dad passed last June, I just couldn't process it. And I used to use medical marijuana as a medicine. But when he passed, I started smoking all day, every day. And I manipulated my psychiatrist, to give me benzos. And I was at first taking them as prescribed, but within like 4 months, I was sneaking more. And then I got caught sneaking more. So I then convinced him that Ativan wasn't working. I needed something stronger. And so right away, the psychiatrist was like, okay, well, here's Valium.
I don't mean to laugh, but I'm just like, I know. Yep. I've done it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we're master manipulators. And I had, how do I say this? I felt like I needed to just be completely honest in that moment of starting over again. Speaking of breaking down music, I like Macklemore a lot. He's a guy in recovery.
Yeah.
And he has a song called Starting Over. And in that song, he says about having to change his clean date. And, was he a fraud because he talks about recovery so much, and now he's, starting all over again. And the words always hit me perfectly, because, like, especially now, like, I'm starting over again from scratch. I took 3 months off from recording new podcasts because I felt like I was still young in my recovery again. I didn't want to, like, praise myself yet. I wanted to just focus on myself for 3 months and not others.
Yeah.
And my therapist, when I quit gambling, she was like, what are you going to do to fill the void now? And I was like, I'm not sure. She's like, what about your podcast? Have you ever thought about bringing that back? And I was like, no, but that's a great idea. And so I decided to start looking for guests again. And I got such a big response that I was like, you know what? Recovery Month is September. And I'm going to shine a light on Recovery Month and release an episode every single day. And I know you did a podcast, you know how hard that is to record.
A lot of work.
So I got 12 already on YouTube, like, hidden, that aren't, that I'm going to release.
Yeah.
And I got another like 12 over the next week that I'm going to record. And I already have I have 16. I'm right, and I'm coming up on episode 200.
That's wild. Congratulations. Like on all of it, on starting over, on the admission, on the accountability, on the honesty, on the bringing the podcast back, on the response, the new fans, all of it. It's great.
Yeah, I think it's definitely been fun. It's definitely filling the void. It's helped me to not think about gambling. It's also been, rewarding to like YouTube has these shorts now. They're like TikToks.
Yeah.
And so I've been going back to previous episodes and pulling up like little minute snippets and posting them on TikTok and YouTube. And I've been getting a huge response from that, whether they're funny. Actually, you're part of one.
Oh, am I?
Yeah, because I made a video where we all talk about our drug dealer being our doctor.
Oh, okay.
And there's like 7 different people like you, where, and again, Macklemore has a song called Drug Dealer.
Yeah.
All about his drug dealer was his doctor.
Yeah.
Got the plug from Big Pharma. And he said, "You're trying to kill me." And like all the words in that song hit so hard. I'll have to send it to you.
I know it. I know every word. I know the video. I'm imagining him sitting in the shower right now, naked, trying to get over the withdrawals, laying in the bed, rolling around in the sheets, sweating his ass off. Oh, I remember. I can feel it.
Did you see the new Eminem Jelly Roll collaboration?
I have not watched the video yet, but I've heard snippets.
Oh my God.
It's great.
The video is so good. Like I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. It's him watching home videos of his daughter, of his kids at that times that he missed because of his addiction and because of his ego of being on tour and not being there for his daughter's recital and all that kind of stuff. And it shows him like breaking down crying watching, those videos, because the song is so powerful with Jelly Roll. That's such a powerful song, Save Me.
Yeah.
And for Eminem to come up with his lyrics as the verses and then use the chorus with Jelly Roll, it's such a powerful song. And I love Eminem. Like his Recovery CD, Recovery album with all those songs, it's a perfect album.
Yeah.
And I think it's my favorite album that he's done over all the Slim Shady stuff. That was, and now he's got something like 17 years, something like that. Like it's so hard to believe. Him and Steve-O were like inspirations to me. Because Steve-O has had so many like he had 13 screws put in his ankle once because of an injury, and all he took was Advil for it because he's sober. And he was refusing everything else. And that's like an inspiration to me. Like when I got my gallbladder removed, I turned down pain meds, because if Steve-O can get through that, then it really is mind over matter when it comes to being in pain. And I can get through this. If he can get through that, I can get through this. So I like that I have role models like that in recovery where I can like learn from. And whether it's music or whether it's, comedians that are sober and they talk about their addiction.
There's a lot of them.
Yep. There's a lot of them. And it's awesome to see. And it's awesome what you're doing with Swift Steps.
Thank you.
I'll put the link in the description and I will talk to you later.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
Always a pleasure, Julianne. Have a nice day.
You too. Bye.
See ya.